Welcome to Sunday Recap. You are here with myself, Nana, and we're here with Jing. Hello, Jing.
Hello.
Welcome to Sunday Recap. Now, Jing gave us our sermon on Sunday. It was brilliant. Make sure you do watch it. I've posted it on Instagram and YouTube, so you should be able to watch back on Jing's sermon on Sunday. But as usual, we're going to ask him the magic question. Jing, are you able to summarize in 3 minutes?
Oh.
Yeah, 3 minutes, your sermon that you preached on Sunday.
Yeah, so 3 minutes, I think we can do it. On Sunday, we went back to Acts chapter 9. The first part of Acts chapter 9, Nathan looked at, which was the conversion of the Apostle Paul. And then the shift focus to Peter, which is the bit we looked at on Sunday. And Peter performs a healing miracle to a lady called Dorcas. Now she had fallen ill and died, and some disciples, because Peter was nearby, he was a town about 10 miles away, sent for Peter and asked him to come. And Peter comes, and then he basically performs a miracle, raising Dorcas to life. And on Sunday we kind of looked at, well, what lessons can we learn from that? And one of the things that I focused on was talking about reputation, and how Dorcas, this lady who had died, she was known for her good works in charity. Luke names that, Dorcas. She was known for her good works in charity. And we also see that Peter had a reputation for healing, which is why the disciples had sent for him. And so, as Christians today, I thought it's good for us to ask the question, actually, what are we known for? And are we known for the things that, as Christians, we would want to be known for? Things like Christ-like character, things like the things that we do for others. Or are we known for maybe things that we shouldn't be known for, which is maybe things like our temper, or maybe being hypocritical or judgmental? And so really asking that question. And then we kind of then also looked at other lessons that we could learn from, which is when we look at the life of Peter and Dorcas. Dorcas didn't let her social standing as a woman in that time, who wouldn't have had the rights that women have today, stop her from having a ministry. And she had a ministry to widows. And Peter had a healing ministry, or he had a ministry as a disciple, but also his mistakes of his past, denying Jesus, didn't define what he then went on to do. And so we see Peter, just like the Apostle Paul actually, experience a transformation of his own, and then walking in the good works and the things that Jesus had called him to do.
Okay.
I think that's probably a nice tidy summary.
Nice tidy summary, thank you. Like you mentioned, you spoke about reputation. Reputation matters, and contrasted Dorcas and Peter. Now, Peter has, we know, quite a volatile background, and we know that he denied Jesus 3 times, but at the same time, God goes on to use him to do many things. And so just give us a little bit more of that contrast between Peter and Dorcas.
I think we live in a world where reputation matters. I think whether it's a product or a review at a restaurant, like we're always looking for, like, actually what are other people saying about those things. And I think in today's world, especially social media and people wanting followers and likes, right, I think people are quite conscious of reputation. And I think we sometimes want to be known for the things that we do. So maybe our ambition is like, actually, I want to be, maybe a young person out there is like, I want to be like the greatest footballer, or I want to be, I want to be known as a very, very good businessman, or but those things are good. I think it's good to have ambition, but I think what speaks deeper as a Christian is actually a reputation that points people to Jesus ultimately. That it's not us that gets the glory, but it's Jesus that gets the glory. And I think we see that in Dorcas and Peter's lives. I think Peter especially, even though we looked at the healing miracle just before this one as well as this one, is that through his miracle people turned to the Lord. And actually in the miracle he performed prior to Dorcas's miracle, he actually says Jesus Christ heals you. So our reputation isn't just about making ourselves look good or kind of gaining fans or followers for ourselves, but it is ultimately about showing Jesus to people through the things that we do, through our character. I think walking with the Holy Spirit, which should produce the fruits of the Spirit in our life.
Right.
So when people meet us, they know us not just as Jing, who's the really good footballer, you know, and of course it's great to have a reputation of, you know, being good at things, but actually, Jing, the guy who's really, really kind, or is very, very, he's always full of joy for some reason. And I think that speaks of something else. It speaks of who we follow, basically, and points people to Jesus.
And you know, went on to talk about how when Jesus did miracles, it pointed to his relationship with God. And so when we bless people, it should point to our relationship with God. Speak a little bit more on that as well.
And I think I think we can surprise people sometimes. Like I say, sometimes it might be that we're going through a trial and yet we're full of joy, or maybe we're not known to have loads of wealth, but we're really, really generous. And just like how Jesus, through his miracles and through his interactions with people, we looked at the gospel reading in John, where Jesus says, I do these miracles. And actually it's interesting, John uses the word for miracle, which translates as signs. I didn't really dive into this, but basically there's two words for miracles, or there's a few words for miracles. One is dynamo, which is to do with like this kind of explosion of power. That's where we get our word dynamite from. Like a miracle is like, wow, this. But actually John chooses to use the word signs, and signs of course are things that point people to things. And so Jesus' miracles were signs pointing to God and his relationship with God. And so when we do good works, when we do the work of God, these aren't things to kind of point to ourselves, but they're things that point to God. And so when you are generous, when you are kind, people might say, oh, that guy's so, like, why is he always full of joy? And there's an answer to that question. He's full of joy because he knows the joy of the Lord. He knows Jesus. And yeah, that's how the good things we do as we obey Christ, those are the things that then reflect who he is and reflect our relationship with him.
One of the parts of your sermon that I really enjoyed, because it was a practical takeaway, where you gave some practical steps that we could kind of follow in order to kind of follow Jesus' example. So can you talk through the practical steps?
I mean, I picked three, but it's normally because that's kind of what you do when you're preaching. I'm sure there are so many others, but actually there are three simple things we can do. And sometimes it's the simple things as Christians that, like, if we just got that bit right, we'd be fine. And sometimes, like, we want to read all these great things in the Bible. Actually, sometimes we just have to get these kind of simple things right. And actually, it's just like following in the footsteps of Jesus, which is hard to do, but we do want to do that. So the first point was do as Jesus asked. And in Dorcas, we see her loving her neighbour. We see her caring for widows, and those are things that Jesus asked of his disciples. So that's the question for us is, are we loving our neighbours? Are we loving our enemies? Which is also something that Jesus asked. Are we caring for the people who are marginalised, the widows, the orphans, those in prison? And those are the things that Jesus asked. So do as Jesus asked. So if you're kind of asking the question, well, how do I be a Christian? Well, you need to kind of read the Bible, read the things that Jesus asked us to do, and then go about living that out, go about doing that. The second thing was doing as Jesus did. And what's interesting about Peter's healing miracle is that in Luke, and actually in Matthew and Mark as well, there's this account of Jesus healing Jairus' daughter, and Peter's healing miracle is like an echo of that. And what's interesting is when you read the account of Jesus healing Jairus' daughter, Peter is there. He's seen Jesus do this before. And so actually I believe what he does when he heals Dorcas is he imitates what he's seen in Jesus. And Paul picks up on this, and we briefly referenced 1 Corinthians 11 verse 1, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And there's kind of two sides to that. Is the goal is to imitate Christ. Now if we find that hard, because sometimes it can be hard to think like, well, what would Jesus do in this situation? And this situation might be I'm stuck in traffic and there's a guy in front of me who's being really, really angry. Like, Jesus doesn't necessarily, like, there's no example of that in the Bible.
Yeah.
But what you can do is you can look at fellow Christians. You might be in a car with, you know, another Christian, and hopefully maybe in that situation they're patient. And so we need to have other people around us. We need to be walking with other people who can say to us, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And we as Christians as well have a responsibility to say to others who are maybe walking with us as well, to say, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And that might be something simple like how you serve at church, how you serve a cup of tea, how you welcome people. There's always an opportunity to show people Jesus, and is just how we can reflect Jesus through our actions and copy him, and those around us. And then the third point really was just pray as Jesus prayed. And when we look at Peter, again, he imitates Jesus in his prayer life, because Peter, as soon as he walks into the room that Dorcas is in, the first thing he does is he gets down on his knees and prays. And actually, if you read that passage, the word rise or raise to life is used a number of times. If you go back, maybe look at it in Bible study this week, is used a number of times. Rise, raise up. It says like Peter got up. And, you know, as Christians, we want to see things raised to life, right? We want to see our communities, life breathed into them. We want our relationships to be restored and to have life again. But actually the secret to all of that is to get down on your knees and to pray. And that's where it's pray as Jesus prayed, because when you look at Jesus in the gospel, he's always praying. In fact, when he did miracles, like when he turned multiplied the fish and the bread, he prayed. And we have to do the same. Pray as Jesus prayed. So those are three things. Do as Jesus asked, do as Jesus did, and pray as Jesus prayed. And I think those are three simple things, but also quite difficult things to get going. But if we do those well, we'll be followers of Jesus.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you very much, Jing. Of course, you know, you can watch this back on Instagram and YouTube. And also, you know, if you're part of the St. Luke's family, and even if you're not, this week we have our Alpha course on Thursday here at St. Luke's at 7 p.m. There's going to be food and a great time and space just to ask questions, maybe questions that you've had about life, the meaning of life, faith. And of course, you can bring anybody that you like along with you. It's going to be a great time. This Saturday, we have our prayer walk in the morning from 10:30 to 11:30, and we'll be meeting outside St. Luke's promptly at 10:30. And also, of course, you can join us on Sunday for our Sunday service at 10:30 here at St. Luke's. Thank you very much again, Jing. And you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next